My name is Jillian, and I'd like to share with you something that happened to me long ago. When I was about 9 years old, I lived with my uncle in a small rural town in Ohio. My parents had both passed away when I was very young, and my uncle was the only family that I had left. He took good care of me, but our house was probably about 2 miles from our nearest neighbors. During the summer, this left me alone without any other kids to play with. I tried to make the best of my situation by playing outside most of the time. I would climb trees, swim in the pond in our backyard, and go exploring into the deep woods surrounding our house. However, once it started to get dark, I always got a creepy feeling while in the woods by myself. One day, I went further into the woods than I'd ever been, and it was starting to get dark. I was about to turn back and head home, but I saw something in the distance I had never seen before. It was a boy who looked to be about the same age as me. Jumping at the opportunity to have someone else to play with, I waved at the boy and smiled. I noticed that he wasn't smiling, but he did wave back. I began to cautiously walk closer, trying to get a better look at the boy. He was blonde and looked like he was wearing some old raggedy clothes. I got within a few feet of the boy and asked him what his name was. He didn't respond, but just stared at me with his piercing blue eyes. I then told him that my name was Jillian, and again, he just stared at me. At this point, I was starting to get creeped out and didn't know what else to say. After about 5 more seconds of staring, he began to grin with a mischievous look on his face and said, "Come follow me if you want to know the secret." He then bolted off deeper into the woods. I don't know why I followed him, but I did. Maybe I was just curious. Maybe I longed for adventure. Or maybe I was just desperate for a friend. I followed the mysterious boy deeper into the woods as it grew darker and darker. It became very hard to see where I was going, but I could still keep track of the boy because of his white shirt. Suddenly, I felt like I was falling and I smashed into something. Without even realizing it, I fell into a large hole. I tried to stand back up, but I felt a sharp pain in my ankle that prevented me from standing. I shouted for help, hoping that the boy would come back to help me, but he never did. I kept shouting help for what felt like hours. I was all alone, hearing growls, screeches, and more mysterious sounds that I can't even begin to describe. I felt pure panic as I began to feel like no one would ever find me and that I would die in this place. Sitting in the dark hole, curled up in a ball, I began to try to think of positive thoughts and memories, to try to take my mind off of the growling and screeching that was happening all around me. Then, out of nowhere, I saw a face peer over the top of the hole. My heart dropped as I saw a strange-looking man with a beard and a long black robe standing over the hole. He looked at me with a menacing look of amusement, like this was all a game to him. I screamed and closed my eyes, hoping that he would go away. When I opened my eyes a few minutes later, he was gone, and I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I started to hear whispers all around me, or maybe it was just the wind. At this point, I couldn't make sense of anything. After what seemed like an eternity, I heard a man's voice in this distance. He was shouting my name, calling out to me. He was getting closer, and after a few seconds, I realized that it was my uncle. I shouted back until he found me curled up at the bottom of the hole. He grabbed me by the hands, pulled me out, and carried me back home to the house. He'd been looking for me for hours after he discovered that I never came home. I cried and told him about the boy I saw, how I got trapped in the hole, and the mysterious robed man. He looked puzzled and said that none of our neighbors had a son that was around my age, and that I was just probably seeing things in the dark. Even though he didn't believe me, I know what I saw, even if I can't explain it. Whether it was a ghost, a demon, or something else, one thing is for certain. I will never go into the woods at night by myself again.